Cool, we're good. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Vaishnavi. Welcome to Gynecology 4 with advanced topics. I should probably write on the board, but you probably know what you're in. Gynecology 4 with advanced topics. Okay. Does anyone watch Cheap Thrills from Super Deluxe? Does anyone watch that show? No? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I love that show. Okay. So the person always introduces himself with, "Hey, what's up? It's 2.8, aka Tabasco Sweet." And then he always says, "You already know what it is." But he has variations on it, And he says "Oh, you think you already know what it is, huh?" Or "Oh, you've always known what it is," or something like that, I feel like I have variations on this, but it's always the same. It's "Hey, what's up? Doing gynecology." Okay. So as you guys know, a few administrator announcements. I think you might have seen in the post that Dr. Stark isn't going to be able to sponsor the seminar next try. I was low-key, I was under the impression that she would, because she promised me first try that she would be sponsoring it a whole year. So I was under the impression that she would. She's sponsored it for 3 trimesters now. But so seminar forms were due on the 23rd, and she told me that day that she couldn't do it. And she was if you're really opposed to the idea of having an informal seminar, I can find somebody to sponsor for you, but the form was due that day, and it would be really tough to find another teacher that day, and I really respect her for sponsoring us for so long. So next try, we'll still have a gynecology seminar, but it'll be informally run, which it kind of is right now, I've never taken attendance or forced people to come, but my worry about that is that I want people to get credit, I don't want people to just show up and spend an hour of their time here learning about gynecology if they don't get credit, And a lot of people in this seminar aren't even signed up for the actual seminar. Raise your hand if you didn't even turn in your form. Okay, thanks, Vanessa. Yeah, so I don't usually take attendance, and people seem to come even if they don't get credit for it. So I'm debating, and I made that poll, and people seem to still want to come, And I do want to teach it for my last trimester here, so we're still gonna have it next try. But I'm really worried that we're gonna have really, really small audiences. I mean, I love teaching to no matter how large it is, but it is nice to have a larger group of people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Do you guys think it's a good idea to keep it going next try? Okay, that was a collective head nod. Wow. You guys are nodding in rhythm. Thank you so much. It really means a lot. So yeah, we'll continue it next try. Hopefully we'll get more people. And that's the only administrator announcement I have. I'll send out a Google form in the beginning of next try to see who wants to teach a lesson, because next trimester is going to be focused on me teaching you guys how to teach other people, And as you guys know, we're also partnering with Period. Did you see that post? Where I was "Let's welcome Eudora, everyone." Did you see? Okay, yeah. So Period reached out to me to help create gynecology workshops, little lesson plans that people all over the country can use to teach other people about gynecology. And I was "Yeah, I'd love to." So we're gonna have some official people watching these seminars. Everybody, we better keep it pretty professional. So that's kind of an initiative for me to teach you guys how to teach other people next tries, because we're trying to create a system where anybody can teach, Okay, so with that being said, let's jump into today's lesson. We're obviously going to be talking about periods, but do you guys remember when we first learned about the uterus? Yeah, all we should. Okay, so the uterus is kind of like this, and it has 3 layers. Can anyone tell me what they are? No? Okay, well, it's the endometrium, the myometrium, and the perimetrium, I'm pretty sure. I think the myometrium is the innermost layer, the endometrium is the outer, and the middle is the perimetrium. And those are the 3 layers of tissues that make up the uterus, right? So as you all know, the uterine lining will this is basically a circle. Their uterus, whatever, YOLO. So the uterine lining will basically thicken and then thin out, and disintegrate, and that's what causes periods, right? But sometimes people might get something called can anyone name a few diseases that impact menstruation? There was one that we talked really extensively about. It starts with an E. Oh my gosh, that's so many people. I'm so proud of all of you. Yes, that's what it was. Endometriosis. Good job. Can you tell me what it does?
I used to be able to.
Okay, it's fine. Do you know what it does, Sophia?
Does it have something to do with like using?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The uterine lining, instead of growing like in the uterus, it grows like in the uterus, like it grows outside of the uterus, not like inside of it. So it's very, very painful, and people often have a hard time conceiving. So there's endometriosis, and there's also another thing called uterine fibroids. And uterine fibroids are basically like huge clumps of tissue that just like grow in the uterus. You know, nobody really knows what they're caused by, and nobody really knows like how to prevent them. You know, because like people don't really understand the causes. It might be genetic, it might be like dietary, people might be predisposed, but it's really just like a smooth tumor in the uterus. And obviously this can impact menstruation. Usually the impact that uterine fibroids have on menstruation is that you bleed a lot. Can anyone tell me why? No? Okay, does anyone want to take a shot? No? Okay, that's okay. Uterine fibroids usually make people bleed a lot because the uterine lining will also typically thicken like a lot when you have uterine fibroids, because they're usually caused by like an influx of hormones, but again, nobody really understands why. And so people with uterine fibroids usually bleed a lot, like a whole ton. And so it's sometimes an issue because periods are also really, really painful for people with this condition. And people don't usually get one, like they get multiple. And in 99% of the cases, the tumors are benign, which means that they're not cancerous and that they're pretty harmless, but just very annoying. Do you think people with uterine fibroids would have an easier time or a more difficult time conceiving? Yeah, it's more difficult because you have like a huge tumor in your uterus. So. But yeah, I don't want to make fun of anybody with uterine fibroids. It's just like it is more difficult to conceive if you have this type of condition. And so typically, like when we talk about people with menstrual diseases like endometriosis or uterine fibroids or like a lack of a period, you know, people can like kind of relate because it's like, oh yeah, I've had bad cramps before, or oh yeah, like I also bleed a lot. But you can't really relate on a personal level because again, there's that stigma in society that you can't like, you know, talk about your period, and so therefore you're kind of left to your own devices to determine what is normal and what is not, which is one of the reasons why endometriosis is like pretty tough to diagnose because people usually write it off as having bad periods. And that's also another reason why we need to like talk more about menstruation, obviously, is to help people kind of discover if they have these diseases or not, and to get treatment for them. Yeah.
So like, how are they diagnosed? What would be a sign
For uterine fibroid, it's usually like heavy periods, like really heavy. And for endometriosis, it's usually like really, really painful periods because again, the lining is running outside of the uterus. And for other diseases, they have like various symptoms, but the thing is with most female reproductive diseases is that they have symptoms that are really akin to like basic like normal symptoms. Like it's usually like fatigue or like bloating or vaginal itching, you know? So it's like it's really hard to diagnose the really specific pinpoints of reproductive disease because the symptoms are very, very similar to each other. So usually like diseases like this are really diagnosed by like medical tests and x-rays. Yeah, any other questions? Okay, so we also know that the uterus has how many muscle groups? This is like a universal number in like most of the parts of the uterus. The uterus has this many parts, it has this many tissue layers, it has this many muscles. Yeah, good job. There's three different types of muscles. One are like, there's like, oh my god, I totally forgot the medical names. The muscles that go like this, they're like kind of lengthwise, muscles that go sideways, and also muscles that connect the uterus to the fallopian tubes and the ovaries. And there's also like basal ligaments that connect them too. And so these muscles are like contractive muscles, so they contract when the uterus is like, you know, trying to push out blood and also trying to push out a baby. And so if you have a tumor that's in the uterus, it can make those muscles like contract even harder because there's a lump in the uterus, and so that leads to more cramps for people with uterine fibroids. So that's just something to be aware of. So like typically, like I said, when we talk about reproductive disease, it's hard for people to relate because unless you've had it or unless you've had something similar, it's hard for people to empathize. And like I said, people don't often want to talk about it. Does anyone know anybody with reproductive disease? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm on.
Oh.
It runs in my family.
Oh, okay. Oh my god. Okay.
What?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, that's not something I should be sorry about. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people like ambiguous like certain cancers.
So you must be really well acquainted with the disease, right?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But your mom had you and your sister, you know, so it worked out. It worked out.
Yeah.
Does she like go to a doctor for it? Or,
Yeah. She didn't.
Hysterectomy. Oh, okay, yeah. Like, do you know why?
I think just the complication of
Yeah.
specifically, yeah.
Well, it's because endometriosis doesn't have a cure, and like I said, like you can go to a doctor and get the uterine lining removed from the outside of the uterus, but it'll just grow back next month, right? So that's why people usually opt to have hysterectomies because you can't, like, there's no cure for it. And that's the same thing with ovarian fibroids, and the same thing with other like slightly more common uterine diseases is that there hasn't been much research done in the field of reproductive medicine to develop cures for these diseases. Also, they're just really hard to cure. Cool. Now we know that. Well, we also know that like not talking about the female reproductive system is stemming both like people from going to their doctors and getting diagnosed, and it's also stemming medical research. So that's another reason that we really need to break the stigma, and that's what I'm going to do to you guys today. So I'm going to read you a story today about a woman who actually has a uterine disease, and we're gonna talk about it afterwards. I hope you guys enjoy it because it is awkward to talk to other people about it, So at least you guys can get that experience here. Sorry I keep saying you guys a lot. I know that's not a very gender inclusive term. I'm gonna go shut the door right now. Sorry, it's just very loud outside. I like to keep the door open. Okay, yeah. I like to keep the door open because I like to be inviting to people, but it's just very loud. And I remember last time, one of the teachers would always be like, "Larry, it's too loud." Okay. If you're here with me last try, you know which teacher it is. Oh wait, I'm trying to get in frame. I don't know how to move. Oh, okay, I can move this way. Okay, this seems to work. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna read the story. It's typically good for people with it's typically good for classes that are smaller because it's very personal. So let me see if I can find it. It's called Bad Blood. Oh my god. Yeah, isn't it funny? I think it's page 113. Damn. I was wrong. Okay, 133. Yes, it is. Okay, it's called Bad Blood. It's by Emma Strong. Okay, here it goes. I got my first period the day before my 11th birthday. I'd been lying about it for months, saying that it had already come because one of the other girls in my very small middle school class got her period before I did, and I was jealous. Menstruating seemed so adult, so womanly, that it was downright sexy. But there it was, finally. My mother had an elegant friend who had taken her daughter for tea at the plaza to celebrate her first period, and so we did that too. Instead of feeling like Eloise, who was, after all, a child, I felt like a movie star. In high school, when other girls began to bleed unexpectedly, they always came to me, knowing that I had a stash of tampons on my person that would last most women several months. Super plus tampons, super tampons, regular tampons, bulky pads, panty liners, Advil, I had it all. The period I had so desperately wanted had not only arrived, it had arrived with force. The folded paper instruction manual that came with each enormous box of tampons claimed that a normal menstrual flow was about 2 ounces of blood per month. I felt like I lost that much in an hour. Every trip to the doctor ended with her telling me that I was terribly anemic, which I knew. How could I not be? The blood was leaving my body at such a high rate that I was surprised there was any left for her to take. Once, one of my male friend's younger sisters came up to me in the lobby of our school. She was a freshman, and I was a senior. I've had a tampon in for 2 days, she said. I forgot about it. She looked at me for advice. Perhaps because I was older and wiser, but also, I presume, because she knew I was some kind of menstrual oracle. I couldn't imagine leaving a tampon in for more than 2 hours, let alone 2 days. My own period was already so bad, the cramps, the bleeding, that I'd gone to the birth control pill to try to beat it into submission. It was the end of high school by the time I realized that bleeding every month sucked, and it quietly went from sucked to actually ruining my life. The birth control pills worked for a while, my cramps improved, but the bleeding was still heavy. Every few months, my college roommate came home with a new box of Tampax Slenders, tampons that I could make expand just by looking at them. Meanwhile, I doubled up on pads and supers and bled through onto my sheets anyway, easily going through one large box of supplies during every period, if not more. I had some sporty-ish friends, the kind of people who want to play intramural softball or pick up basketball or go camping during that time of the month. And my first thought was always, how can you do anything that is so far away from a bathroom? How can you be so cavalier? Or cavalier, yes. Yeah, cavalier. Yeah, okay, I'm taking a lot of French. Anytime I see an IER, I'm always like, ooh. You know? My period lasted a solid week, if not more. Heavy for the first few days and heavier than most people's normal periods, even on my lightest days. I knew every single bathroom on my college campus intimately. As I got older, I looked at my schedule and cringed when I saw that I was due for my period, knowing how much harder it will make everything I'm supposed to do. Taking the subway to work for 40 minutes? Impossible. I can't be away from a bathroom for that long. I'd fill my purse with pills and supplies. I'd wear my oldest, darkest underwear and hope for the best. The feeling is like boarding an airplane when you know there's going to be extreme turbulence. The ride is going to be bumpy, but you have no choice but to get on board. A couple of years ago, I went off the pill for the first time in over a decade. Though intellectually, I understood that the hormones in the pills had been controlling my period. It was nonetheless a shock to see the change. My period went from heavy but not completely insane to the hallway scene in The Shining. Has anyone seen that scene?
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't? Well, it's basically a hallway, and they open a door, and it fills with blood, like the entire hallway. It's wild. I'll post a GIF of it on the page. And because I realized how much garbage I was producing every month, all those applicators, all those cardboard boxes, all those little plastic sleeves, I switched to a hippie option, the Diva Cup. You guys, I love the Diva Cup, which my friends and my pals here at Rookie swore by. Rookie is the company she works for, by the way. One friend told me it was so great, she'd empty it once or twice a day, and that was it. She practically had stars in her eyes. I was sold. You know the phrase, my cup runneth over? Not to be disgusting, yeah, I know that phrase very well, because it did. Not to be disgusting, but my cup runneth over every half hour. I was traveling a lot at the time, and with the band I worked for and doing research for my novel. And sometimes I would be in transit all day long, timing my bathroom stop requests as far apart as I could, waiting until the last second to board airplanes, running through gas stations because I didn't want to ruin one of only a few dresses in my suitcase. I sprinted into filthy bathrooms, into porta potties, into places I would usually avoid like the plague, waiting for a clean spot. Ideally, my own bathroom just wasn't an option. The blood was everywhere. It was on my clothes, my skin, the toilet bowl, the bathroom floor. I couldn't control it. Not with Advil or with expensive pills from my gynecologist that were supposed to staunch my flow. Rather, the pills worked. They cut the bleeding by a third on the heaviest days, but a third of a monsoon is still a monsoon. I went for dinner at a friend's house and sat on her beautiful vintage chaise lounge because she asked me to, because she knew I'd love it, and then did nothing but think about the possibility of ruining it all night long. I left work early, I left parties early, and canceled plans and left and right. On my heaviest days, I had half an hour between visits to the bathroom, if I was lucky. I got no sleep, even with an old towel tucked underneath my body, just in case. Each period lasted more than a week, sometimes 2, and left me feeling like I'd been through a war. Even though most people with functional ovaries between the ages of approximately 12 and 45 menstruate, most of them don't have to worry about the shame of having an accident, the weird looks from friends and coworkers when you excuse yourself every 30 minutes, and all that blood. People love to give advice. One friend recommended I try acupuncture, which I'd done before and had helped with other physical ailments. I took herbal remedies and, of course, iron. So much iron. The acupuncture was fine until I bled through my clothes on the table, leaving a small round stain behind. And then I drove myself home crying, knowing that I wouldn't make it home fast enough to avoid another accident. After a year of this, I finally went to a new doctor. What took me so long, I have no idea. I think I always assumed that this was just my cross to bear, that nothing could be done, that it wasn't that bad. Never mind that I had never met anyone with periods like mine. Because I'd always been healthy, it truly never occurred to me that there could be any actual problem. It took visits to several specialists, but finally, after months, which of course meant more periods, my new doctor, also known as my queen, my goddess, my deliverer from evil, discovered the gigantic colony of fibroids that had been wreaking havoc on my uterus. My doctor explained them to me like this. A normal uterus squeezes itself every month, contracting to rid itself of its lining. She squeezed her fist together the way you squeeze a lemon. When you have a fibroid, a non-cancerous cyst, it can interfere with normal uterine contractions, so the bleeding can't regulate itself. So the uterus wants to keep squeezing and squeezing, shedding more and more blood. This summer, I had 2 surgeries to remove them. One giant monster fibroid, and then several little baby monster fibroids. Too many to count, like gremlins. The surgeries weren't bad. I got to go home afterwards, and I was pretty much back to normal within a week. I was lucky in this regard. Some people have far more invasive surgeries, depending on the position of the fibroid. Friends sent me boxes of snacks and comic books and flowers, and my husband took excellent care of me, sweetly hopeful that the worst was behind us. My only regret was that I waited so long to figure out what was wrong. I think it's a good lesson about knowing your own body. If something seems like it's fucked up, that's in the book, it probably is. I don't think I'll ever be reluctant to call a doctor again. There are, of course, reasons why having your period is a good thing. I would never have gone on those pills that reduce your period to 4 times a year, because that just seems weird to me. The clockwork regularity of my period is comforting to me. It's satisfying to know that my body is doing its thing just fine. Having your period is also a great way to know that you're not pregnant, which is very reassuring. For obvious reasons, I'm way past the point of seeing any charm whatsoever in my monthly visitor, but I know it's a minor inconvenience for most people. I wish that I still felt as excited about that particular part of becoming an adult as I did when I was in junior high school. Though it's early to tell for sure, my life seems to have improved. I've only had one fairly normal period. I still know all the best public bathrooms in the city. If you're downtown Manhattan, forget the Apple Store and go to Room and Board, trust me. I still carry enough feminine products I still carry enough feminine products to act as a dam in a pinch. Even though with the Diva Cup now able to handle my flow, I need them more for my own peace of mind. The fibroids will almost certainly grow back, so my reprieve might be short-lived, but I'm happy to take what I can get. It was so bad for so long, I don't quite believe the blood is gone forever. Every month, I'll cross my fingers and hope for the best. And if it gets really debilitating again, I won't wait another month before going back to the doctor. I'm not going to join any swim teams in the meantime, or hike up Mount Kilimanjaro, but who knows, I might have a whole 3 weeks of freedom. It's a start. And that's it. So, did you guys take anything from this story? There were like a few pretty key points. Anyone? No one?
The lesson about like knowing your body and trusting that you should you have valid feeling, which talks about.
Yeah, that's definitely too. Did you guys like hear that part where she said that she had never come across somebody with a period like hers? Like, she might have, but they might not have told her, But like, I don't know her life. But yeah, like if she had heard that like, oh, this is what a normal period should be, or like this is how like my period is, how is your period, then she might have gone to a doctor earlier. And of course that's just a hypothetical and I can't speak for her, but that might be, something to consider. Anything else? Did anyone react to like the okay, do you remember when she was like a young adult and her mother took her to like get tea at a plaza when she got her period? Do you guys remember the story we read last time where like it was called Black Blood, and it was about the woman who said, I don't know about your family, but my family wasn't going to throw a party, How do you see parallels between those two stories?
No, there are different attitudes about like periods and what they represent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like for this one, you would think that it would be a little more open because like her mom took her to get tea and stuff, and like people weren't like shaming her for her period. Like we saw in Black Blood, where like in the community where that person was from, it was seen as like kind of unsavory to get your period, I guess. But like she still didn't experience the openness that allowed her to like go visit a doctor earlier, or that like let her see that maybe her period wasn't normal. So even though we live in worlds with varying degrees of menstrual acceptance, we still need to work towards a world where it is accepted enough that people are able to understand what's wrong, Okay, and did anyone notice like the variety of menstrual products that she used? Did anyone remember the story of like the first story that we read, the woman in the wheelchair? Yeah. Do you guys like see any parallels between like this story and that story? No? Like the person in the wheelchair had a bunch of menstrual products too, and this person did too. So like I guess like we could say something like people who often experience like unusual periods, like do you get the feeling that like maybe those types of people would be a little more wary of their periods because it's a little more unusual for them? Yeah. Yeah, and I think that just goes back to how we have to make it more accepted in society to talk about the period, And you guys know obviously like how to do that, like just talk about your period, but also like you could like make it okay for other people to talk about their periods too, right? And so this person talked about her first period and how it was pretty heavy and she didn't really, notice, right? So like that's the same thing that happened to me. Like when I first got my period, it was pretty heavy, and I also like didn't really notice. Like I thought it was normal, and thankfully mine is pretty normal, but my mom freaked out. So yeah, in the spirit of like making it more accepted to talk about your periods, I'm gonna ask you guys about your first periods. If that's okay, you definitely don't have to share. But I'm gonna share mine. Oh my god, it was like when I was like 11. Whoa, that seems like years ago. Like I was just a babe. Yeah, and this is also like another teaching tool. Like if you want people to be comfortable with something, you have to be comfortable with it yourself, right? And if you're not, like I completely understand. So as you guys know, I'm Hindu. Like I'm pretty Hindu. So when I first got my period, it was like at school. Like I was in like 6th grade. We were like let out for a break, and I felt like a slight moistness in my underwear. I was like, oh, okay, it's just like probably discharge or something, And so I went to the bathroom. Oh, it was so Jack. You came at like the right time. Oh my gosh, I already read the story. I'm so sorry. Wait, it's recorded, so
I'm so lost.
You're so well dressed today. Wow, I just love seeing all these people. Okay, so this is my first period. So what happened? Oh yeah, I felt a slight moistness in my underwear. Went to the bathroom. My old high school had like my old middle school had like boxes in between the stalls of the bathrooms where people could throw their menstrual products. Just like open boxes. It was wild. It was like literally like I was like, there has to be some form of like airborne illness at least with rotting blood in open boxes. I was like, okay, whatever. Anyways. So I looked at my underwear, it was like black, and I was like, oh whatever. I wasn't really into gynecology at the time, so I thought it was just like the color of the underwear I had on that day. So I was like, okay, whatever. And were probably producing a lot of discharge, so I just like put a bunch of toilet paper in my underwear and I just like hiked him back up and went to math class. You know, I was like, yup, and I was like Jay chilling. Then like before the end of school or something, I think I took off my underwear like in the bathroom and like I looked and it was like pretty red and I was like, okay, whatever. I just like flushed down the toilet paper and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. So I went home and I was like, hey mom, I have something to talk to you about. Or like no, I was like, hey mom, I have something to show you. And she was like, oh, what is it? Because she probably thought I did like a 60 on a test or something. And she was like about to get mad. She like took her flip flop back. She was like, so I like took her to my bedroom and I like took off my underwear and I was like, what is this? And she was like, oh my god! And she like called the village astrologer. She was like, okay, it happened at like 11:15 a.m. It's just like an auspicious time to get her period. And the guy was like, I mean, yeah, like it's fine. And she was like, but do you mean in Indian time it's fine? Or in American time? And the person was like, it's really okay, whatever way you look at it, the stars have aligned properly. And my mom was like, oh my god. And she was like, oh my god. And she like made me wear a pad. Like she never actually showed me how to put a pad on. I like had to figure it out. But they have very nice pictures on the boxes. So I put on a pad and I like went about my day. I was like, okay, this is me now. And then I just like lived, you know, continued to get my period. And then I got really into gynecology. I think my mom actually started crying. Because she was like, oh, you're so young, you're just 11, like, oh my god, I can't believe you got your period. But like, honestly, what's expected is like, you're supposed to get your period 2 years after you start producing discharge, and about 3 years after you start developing breasts. And like, I had breasts in like the 3rd grade, so it's like, it was like pretty expected. I was like, why are you crying, mom? I thought I had done something wrong, you know? I was like, oh my god, maybe I like fell off of like a swing or something, like, maybe that's why I'm bleeding. But then I realized, and it was wild, and I've been living like it ever since. Like when most girls tell me that like, when most people tell me when they first get their periods, they like freaked out. They were like, what the hell is this? You know, I like didn't experience that at all. I was like, yup. I just like lived my life. You know, that was my first period story. It wasn't that wild. It was like pretty normal. I think the astrologer card is probably something that most people don't experience, but you have to make sure, you know. And I remember my mom calling my grandma. She was like, "Yeah, Vishka is losing like 500 milliliters of blood per hour," and I was like, "Oh my god, mom!" It's like barely any. But yeah, actually, it was a lot. It like soaked through my pants and everything. I was just like, "Okay, this is normal." But yeah, fun fact, I also never had the sex talk with my mom, like ever, like in my entire life. I think she's very lucky that I'm into gynecology because I know more about it than she will ever be able to tell me, you know? But if I wasn't into gynecology and I just like didn't know what sex was, that'd be like wild. Maybe I just didn't care. Like I didn't care about my period. But yeah. So does anyone want to go next? It's fine. Would you guys want to go if Jack wasn't here or something? Is that like a thing? Yeah, sorry! Oh my god! Yes, go for it.
So I was 11
Oh!
and it was like, it's very like story. I woke up one morning and then there was blood in my underwear. And then I was like, hey mom, I think I got my period. And then she's like, here's a pad, here's how you put it on. But then I forgot how to put it on.
What? It's adhesive!
Yeah, like I forgot like which side goes where. Like you know what I'm talking about? Like you know how there's like a long side and a short side. Like all that weird thing. And I just didn't remember which side. And then I asked my mom which side goes where. And then she told me the wrong side. But yeah, that's it.
And you've just been living with it ever since.
Yeah, I mean I eventually figured out which side.
Okay.
Which side.
There was one time I was teaching gynecology seminar and this guy was like, so does the sticky side of the pad go against the vagina? And I was like, oh my god! Yo, that'd be so painful! Yo, oh my god. I started thinking about it for like a solid minute. And then I cringed so hard. I was like, oh my god. But at least you didn't do that side, you know? Good on you.
I never realized that.
Does anyone want to go next? Oh, do you know when your menarche was? Do you know what a menarche is? Does anyone know what a menarche is? Okay, menarche is the anniversary of when you got your first period. Some people celebrate their menarche by having a menarche party. Some people are just like, when is that? Yeah, when was it?
15.
Whoa!
I actually had a piano thing that day, so I was like dressed up too.
Whoa! Mine was August the 24th. So yeah, so it's coming up. 10 months. Anyone else? Yeah, somebody. Woo! I'm so proud of you. Yes.
I was also 11.
Oh my god! We're basically triplets. Jack's not alone in here. That's because he's a triplet. I just wanted to say that.
Okay. Well, like my mom had explained to me all sorts of biological processes several times before. Like, she was very into discussing it. And like, I have an older sister, so I was like, I don't know, when I saw it, I was like, oh yes, this is my period. I was like, it was before I had soccer practice, and I was like, Mom, I need a pad. And she brought me one, and I was like, okay. So, I don't know. I don't know the anniversary, but I don't think I was very shocked by it. But
Yeah, that must be nice. You did have an older sister. I just remember like Sai's the oldest one, right? And I'm also the oldest one. So yeah, that must be so nice. Wow.
it's always nice.
That must be so nice. Sophia's older sister went here, you guys. She was my RLA actually for a short period of time. It was wild. I remember when my sister got her period, she was like 13, and my mom and I weren't home, and she like went to the bathroom and peed, and she was like, oh my god, because like none of us were home, and she was just like low-key freaking out, and my mom was like, oh my god, because it was like when the baby of the family like got her period, and my mom like low-key started freaking out. The other day I tried to convince my sister to use a menstrual cup to no avail. She's a parent, she like doesn't like them or something, and I was like, okay, just because like mine overflowed several times doesn't mean you can. Yeah, okay, yeah, I did, okay, but it was convenient. It was nice, okay. And actually, wait, did anybody read that article that I posted about like bad-blooded like broccoli? No? Okay, this one woman left like a full menstrual cup in for like 2 weeks or something. And then when she took it out, the blood had like rotted inside of her and it smelled like broccoli. I will attest to that. It does smell like broccoli. It's 100% true. As it was after 2 days, so yes. I know. Anyone else want to go? Yeah, Abigail.
I was 14,
Oh my god.
so I had been like freaking out about it for a little bit, but also like I kept having like false alarms because I had like really heavy discharge for a while. But then I got it and I was like, okay, cool. Everybody talked about it. But then I went through a tampon like on the second day at dance class. It was really unpleasant. Like tights are pink and kind of expensive and was not great. And it lasted for 14 days, which was also not great.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Also, my mom and I never had sex talk either, but I just think I decided to just like not.
Okay.
They gave me some books.
Yeah. He was like, here's some
Here's some
books.
books.
Have fun.
I
Yeah.
just like found them on my bed one day.
Really?
Yeah.
Am I the only person here that actually got the
No, my mom.
Oh, okay.
I've like heard a bunch of sex educators say like the sex talk should be like a one-time conversation,
Yeah.
you know, like you should do it multiple times.
Yeah.
It should be an easy conversation. And like I was like sure, we can like in a perfect world we can be like, yeah, we should all talk to our kids about sex. But it's like really, are you gonna be like over breakfast like, hey Jimmy, just want to ask you sex life? You know?
My family definitely talked about it over breakfast at least once.
Oh my god.
I remember this one time, like, we went to the elementary school next to my school, and we were, like, kicking a soccer ball around, and my mom just, like, started discussing it. It was, like, really uncomfortable, but we just, like, kept taking the soccer ball so we didn't have to talk about it. But, yeah.
Yeah.
My parents were...
Wait, that's so interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like the root problem is that we're all just really uncomfortable with talking about sex. So I think talking about it more would make it more enjoyable to talk about, you know. What were you raised your hand? No? Okay. Alright, anybody else want to go? Yeah, Vanessa! Yeah!
So I was also 11.
Oh my god!
And when I woke up and I went to the bathroom and I saw that I had my period and I started crying.
What?
But the reason I started crying was because in like 3 days I was about to go to overnight camp, which meant I wouldn't have my mom there.
Oh.
And I was just really sad that was the timing of it. But otherwise, like, it wasn't really a big deal. My mom was just like, okay, cool. Like, that's fine. She talked to my counselors about it, and they're like, she's gonna freak out, but like, it's fine.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. It was fine, you know, you dealt with it. Did all of you use pads the first time, or? Yeah, woohoo! I feel like that's like the typical stage. Like you use pads, and then you use tampons, and then maybe you use a menstrual. Well, it didn't work that way for me, so it's fine. Like I remember at the conference, like the person was like, "Yeah, so how much do you bleed through in tampons?" And I was like, "I've never used a tampon," and she was like, "What?" They freaked me out. I just think it's scary. The little plastic applicators, you know.
How is it more scary than a DV?
I don't know. Tampons are weirdly phallic. It's just it's weird. Yeah, my mom didn't let me use them for a while because she thought they were like phallic, you know. And she was like, "No, you're not losing your virginity to a tampon." And I was like, "What?" Yeah, I think she like was freaked out at the thought of me having something inside of me for a while. But then I got really into gynecology and I like knew more than her, so then she was okay with it. Does anyone want to go next? Yeah, go ahead, Victoria.
Okay, so I was like 11. I don't remember much.
Yes,
But,
oh my god! 11 crew!
but I know, sorry. It wasn't like a big deal or scary or anything. It was like the month before that they explained it in school. And then they like handed out like emergency supplies and they're like, keep this in your bathroom. So if you did that unexpectedly, you had something. And I called my mom and she brought me home.
Whoa, your mom brought you home?
No, like I was at home, but she was at work, so I had to call her to bring me pads.
Oh,
to,
okay. Well, at least it worked out. Like you didn't freak out or anything, right? Because you already knew about it, and that's what we need to do. You know, you gotta teach people so they don't freak out about it. What were you gonna say?
I mean, I'm in trouble though, so I've been having like health classes since like the 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
I'm sorry, Jack. Did you have like anything related to menstrual health? You have people in your life who menstruate, right?
Uh-huh.
Do you have anything you'd like to share regarding?
No, I know very little about their menstrual health, not by choice, but like basically by their like uncomfortableness with like sharing it.
Okay. Well, you know that I kept it to you for 2 days, so you do know something. You know,
Yeah.
It works out. Yeah.
I'll go tell them, why are you keeping this from me? Don't make the topic so taboo, Mom.
You have a sister, right? Yeah. So it works out. I think like for me growing up, I've always been surrounded by girls, so it was like pretty easy for me to talk about periods. It's super weird because like usually when somebody in the Indian community has a baby, they always call my mom over because she has like almost adult children, and like most people are like pretty young because they're new immigrants. And so they'll always call my mom over, and then they'll always be like, "Oh, and her daughter is also really good with talking about like obstetrics and stuff." So like I'll have like kind of Indian women who are like, "Should I put turmeric on?" It's so wet. Like usually I'm like, "No, I don't think turmeric is good to put directly in the baby's nose. That's probably not a good idea." And there's always that like one aunt, like one grandma who's like, "No, I grew my babies in like a village, like I raised them in a river, like they were fine. Just like vaccinations." It's so wild. Yeah, but I did grow up I was raised that way too, so it worked out. But have any of you ever come across like myths about periods or about like, female health, and have you been able to counteract them? Yeah, okay, you're shaking your head.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think of specific ones, but I definitely have.
Okay, yeah. There was one guy in my school who got a nosebleed once, and somebody was like, "How about nose period?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" Yeah, but that's something that we should definitely counteract in our society. I went off on that guy. I was like, "Do you even know what a period is, Elliot?" His name was Elliot, by the way. Are you okay?
No. Because he just said, I went off on him, Elliot.
Is that your brother's name? Did I okay, cool.
No, I just think it's funny.
Okay, thank Yeah, Sophia, what was it?
Example. I mean, there's the whole like, oh, is she on her period thing?
Oh yeah, I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that, especially because I think we've talked about it. Like PMS occurs several weeks before the period.
And isn't it true that most people don't even experience?
Yeah, most
PMS?
people
It's
don't.
like actually really uncommon.
Yeah, it is really uncommon to experience like a huge mood shift on your period. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it just maybe puts you in a bad mood.
I mean, I guess, yeah, because you're bleeding from your genitals. I mean, I would be in a bad mood too, but yes, I hate when people say that. Like, oh, she's on her period. Oh my god, I hate that. Oh, honestly, so much. Like, I was on hall the other day and somebody said it, like, somebody was like, oh yeah, she was probably on her period that day, so she was being moody, and I was like, what the heck? And I, like, went off on them, and then I talked to the RLA, and I was like, I'm sorry. We're having a hall conflict, but yeah. Anybody else? Anything else? Oh, yes,
I was talking to someone, and this person said that, or like, they thought that like periods were like peeing blood.
Oh no!
So I was like, that
Some
sounds.
people think you can like control it.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I saw that tweet that was like, like why should we have to like support free tampons? You know, why don't we just like hold your period in? Like, why do I have to pay taxpayer money because girls just want to pee everywhere? It's like, oh my god, man. I'm sorry you never felt the touch of a woman. It's wild. Yeah, I just like, and that's definitely something we need to raise because this is like a grown man, you know? I was like, whew.
I guess if you never ever talk to anyone about it, it's kind of a logical assumption to make.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like if you ever spoke to someone ever in your life, you would know. Also, some people think that like the size of the tampon corresponds
To the size of your vagina? I just like, what?
And it's not really like, it's about like how heavy your flow is.
Yeah, that's so dumb. I hate when people are like that. Like,
Yeah.
she uses a super plus tampon, so she must have lots of sex. There's so many misconceptions in that one statement. What? Yeah, I hate that. But you know, have any of you personally experienced that? Like, did anyone like come up to you and be like, oh, like you're probably on your period because you're so like upset today? Really? Whoa, that makes me really sad. I'm so sorry. Did this happen at school or like?
At my old school.
Oh my god.
That's happened here.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
What do you do?
True, but like someone definitely told me that. I was like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah, what? We live here. Like, you probably know what hall this person's on, you know?
I mean, I know the person.
Oh my god. Wait. Did they live on a male hall or a female hall?
Do I have to answer?
No, you don't. But I always find it like really shocking when like people who have periods have misconceptions. God dang it. Okay, I always find it really uncomfortable when people who have periods have misconceptions about periods. Because it's just like, you have a hand, but you tell people that like, oh, look at your 6 fingers today, you know? Like, you have this thing, how do you not know? It's so bothersome.
That's such a weird analogy.
It reminds me of my grandparents who have MacBooks but don't know how to use this. Which again, education, you guys, is very important. That makes me so mad! Okay, whatever. Like, I used to teach in like rural North Carolina, you know, and that's where I got a lot of these misconceptions. But when I came here, I got so many more. It was so wild. Whoa. I remember like people would tag me on all of those like posts that like had something to do with the reproductive system, and I was like, oh my god, why does this exist here? You're in an advanced STEM school. I was like, what? Yeah, like this one guy came up to me and he was like, oh yeah, so pads go between the vagina cheeks, right? And I was like, what? Yeah, it was so wild. I like tried really hard not to flip, but I was like, no, they do not. It was so crazy. I think this happened once in gynecology somewhere, like somebody was like, oh, so pads don't go inside? Whoa. I'm pretty sure it was like Malachi. Like, who was like, what are pads? But it's fine, because we explained it. And that's how these issues get solved, you guys. Like, you have to explain to a broader audience of people who might not have periods, you know?
One thing I noticed once here, the guy asked me to
Oh.
use my penis.
It's so uncomfortable. Oh my god, like you have to know. Like, oh my god, it's so uncomfortable. I'm so sorry. How? It's red. Like how? How? I guess it's
there's another guy there, and the funny part was that he had just been like bragging to me like a day about how much he got periods because he had a little sister. And apparently, and I like ran back to my room, but my friends told me that took them like 5 minutes to figure out that I was on my period.
Oh my god.
And how to like shit my pants.
It's so uncomfortable. I hate that. Ah! Okay, I'm sorry, you guys. That just like made my blood boil a little bit. Like, we live here. There's a gynecologist over here! Oh my god! Okay, it's fine. But I guess that's like what comes with like grassroots educating, you know? You just have to go for it. You just have to be like, yes, I'm on my period. I remember like I had a period stain once, like I bled through once, and like I didn't know, I had like all the morning classes and then like the last block of the day free, and I didn't know it the whole day. I was just like going about my life with like a huge stain on my pants. It was wild, but nobody came up to me about it. I think it's because it was just very long hidden. I like don't like to move a lot, so I just like sat down, just like sat in every class. Yeah. Has anyone come across those people who are like really radical about menstruation, like people who are like, you should free bleed? Have you come across those people? No? Okay, I have. And so they'll usually be like, well, actually, you're a feminist, right? And I'll be like, yeah. You teach gynecology seminar, you like do a lot of stuff with menstruation. So why shouldn't people free bleed? Like, are you like supporting the capitalist system by telling people to buy pads and tampons and not free bleeding? That's what we used to do in the Victorian times. And I was like, oh no.
It seems like it comes from a place of privilege to be able to free bleed.
Yeah, like it really
That
does.
you don't have to like be
Worry
society for the day and just chill or whatever.
Mhm.
It's like good function still.
Mhm. Exactly, and you don't have to like be embarrassed about it. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be good and comfortable?
Yes.
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
Is it part of the reason that people like in like developing nations are like secluded is because they don't have access to like products to be able to like menstrual products? So like not saying that's the whole reason, but is that part of the reason?
What people in developing countries are more uncomfortable about?
No. Like if you don't have menstrual products, then like
You're more apt to free bleed?
no, like if you do have to free bleed because you don't have choice.
Oh yeah,
And like that's
That's
part of the
true.
reason like you can't like do things.
Yeah, that's
Like, that's what the argument is that like people can't do things. So
yeah.
I couldn't say that properly.
Yeah. It's really is wild. Like I know like in Nepal girls are like locked people with periods are like locked away in like rooms when they get their period, You know in Nepal they have like a phenomenon. I don't know, I think it's like a type of goddess. Like you know that goddess that like exists within a little girl?
Is it Kumar?
Kumari, that's right, yeah. Kumari goddesses are like little girls who like are viewed to be the goddess Kumari, and they like don't touch the ground, feet don't touch the ground, and they like put on a bunch of eyeliner and stuff. But the second they get their period, they're released from their position, and that contributes to the myth that like periods are like a sign of impurity, or like they're a sign that you're no longer holy, It's just kind of weird to me. But yeah, I mean, there's so many cultural myths surrounding menstruation, but you are the change, and you do have the power to change the minds of random people who tell you that, like, you're PMSing or that you shit your pants, and you do have the power to change the minds of your families and those around you. I just want to let you guys know that there's no better time than now. And also now is probably when you have to go. So I saw Jack packing up and I was like, oh, I gotta wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed session today. I'm so sorry if it was slightly more boring than usual.
Never.
Thanks, Jack. Okay, if you have anything to talk to me about, you can always come up to me and talk to me. Okay, see you guys. Thanks so much. Bye.